And we continue enjoying ourselves at the CZI Conference 2021 here in Harare. We've had a fantastic time meeting lots and lots of people who actually know what they're talking about and seem to be making an impression on some of our own opinions. I think even Tinashe might be convinced to change his mind on a thing or two.
No, I'm just being nice.
Just being polite.
But yeah, we've bumped into an old friend and a past president of CZI, CEO of United Refineries. Should I go on? Sponsor of the Royal Awards.
No. I think that's enough.
Busisa Moyo.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you, Tinashe, for having us on the show. And it's been waiting for this moment since you told me you're putting something up. I was wondering what it was going to be.
All right. Well, this is the man who actually made it happen. Oh, yeah. I just sent him a WhatsApp, and the next thing is like, send me an email. And when I sent the email, he replied at 2 a.m.
Is he also an insomniac like you?
Does your wife know about this?
I think she does. I think that night I was actually traveling, I think.
Yeah.
I was on the road. Yeah, I was on the road to Dubai.
Oh, so you don't
it was
do this
a
when you're at home?
No. I mean, to my wife, as I'm just a young man she fell in love with. These CEOs, sponsor of the Royal Awards. That's
Mr. Moyo.
It's like when we were at school, we thought, if you get muscles, you impress the ladies, but that doesn't work. No. The ladies want a person who's sensitive, who actually can listen. If we had spent more time doing that, would be better. So leadership is about the time of day.
So why do you still pump iron?
You started it. You remember I was a runt at school now, and then,
yes.
You remember I was a runt, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we go back to high school.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was one of our camp leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is when you were a leader in Christian youth society.
Yes.
People may not know this about George. He used to convert a lot of people. He used to
Yes.
actually speak in tongues.
No, I didn't. I never spoke in tongues.
I think he still speaks in tongues.
At a certain hour. After a few. All right.
Anyway, speaking of which, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking Carecho.
Yeah, we've taken it.
Are you also into East African things?
Well, I'm a tea drinker. When I was in Kenya, the one time they had a thing called African tea. It's not African tea, it's African tea.
African tea.
African tea. They put ginger in it and they boil it like for 5 hours.
Yes. It's,
And it's a thick tea.
and they put a bit of spice in it.
Yeah, they put
some
spices.
masala in
Yeah,
it.
they put some
masala.
spices in it.
Yes.
It's an excellent drink.
It's a
So
lovely tea,
this is a nice tea. It's a good tea.
Oh, there we go.
And okay,
I'm flattered.
need we ask? No. What are you drinking?
Well, I'm carrying on.
You carrying on the lyric?
Yep.
Yeah. Back to basics. Castle light. Can't go wrong.
What's the difference between light and full fat?
Well, we don't call it full fat. We call it Castle diesel.
It's coherent and speaking in tongues.
And if you're still not sure, wait until tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And you will know.
Then we'll know. Okay.
So you talk about how your wife perceives you.
Yeah.
That touches on leadership.
I guess it does. And that's the first place I think we practice leadership. People always say, where did you learn leadership? And for me, I think it's when, a lot of people, because of my accent and all of that, they don't know I used to actually herd cattle in Matebele land, in Bulilima district. I was a herd boy.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. And I learned management when I was herding cattle because I did it at 4 years old. I was very young. It was during the war. My parents had gone during the war, and I was with my grandmother, and I was the only person who could look after the cows because my grandfather was working in Cape Town at the time, and I was sent to my maternal grandmother, and so I would look after the cattle. And I figured out,
Are you saying he was a border jumper?
I don't know whether it was a border jumper, but it was a diasporan. He was the early.
They call it Injiva.
Injiva. Kwete Injiva. Injiva.
Okay. And what's the context? You're jumping the border as a bird?
I guess so.
No. I even know this better than you.
Okay, go.
It's because of the seasonal migration.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. You
They-
go.
You
they
go
go
and then
and
you
they
come
come
back.
back.
You come back.
They come
yeah.
back for the summer.
And you come back for the summer.
Oh, George, you actually know something.
I know
George,
a few
George was always the clever one.
you should
It
tell
was
us-
a
you
memory
should-
bank.
things. You should tell it to these two guys.
I think you're using the right tense.
Is it? Was. Maybe that's causing some. This is causing you some. That's a good line, actually. I'm going to tell him he's losing some of his sharpness. He's becoming blunt. You,
No,
know.
it's a good trade-off.
You got to come over to tea.
Anyway, so you're herding cattle, and
I was herding cattle, and I learned to control. It was a big herd because my grandfather was a fairly wealthy man, so he had a decent herd. You know, if you had a normal herd, you had maybe 5 to 7, but he had like 20, and so I was looking after these 20 and controlling these things, taking them out, and I remember starting, and I'll take them further and further, and I learned to control them. So by the time I got to 6 years of age, 5 years of age, I was taking them really far.
Wow.
And that's where I learned management or leadership. It started with cattle.
no, I even
Is
before,
that how you
even
see your employees? As cattle?
No.
we might have to ask Ranga to edit that out. But I think interesting there. But even before you were leading the cattle, I mean, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but perhaps your first management lesson was from your grandmother, giving you a chance, giving you a
I
responsibility.
think so. The opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know. I think it's more perfect and more perfect than that in terms of it. It was not an opportunity, and just the way leadership happens, you find yourself. My grandmother had to look after the homestead. As I said, my grandfather had a lot of nice things. He had tractors, for a guy in the rural
You
areas.
come from quite a posh background.
Well, a tractor in the rural areas, come on. So he had, he had windows. You had those normal windows that are just, through the mud hut, right? But he would put a proper window. So she wanted to look after her husband's assets, and she wanted to stick around the homestead and make sure it's not left empty to vandals and so on. And so, guess who had to take the cattle out? It was me. So the opportunity presented.
At 4 years old.
At 4 years old. Initially, it was
was
just
brave.
around. It was around the, just around the yard. Not too far. But as I said, with time, I was going further and further, and I did it a couple of times. Successfully brought the cattle back, none missing. So yeah, maybe my employees, maybe none of them is missing. They all come back at the end of the year. I do a roll call, and everybody's there. Nobody's left. Low attrition, low staff turnover.
But what I mean, I've got a 4-year-old daughter. You've got a 4-year-old daughter.
She's no longer 4.
Oh, sorry, your daughter is older than my
7,
daughter.
yeah.
Yes, but even at 7, can you imagine giving her 20 cows to look after?
My daughter. That'll be interesting. Not so sure, but I think the import I get from this lesson, it's about showing up. That leadership is about who actually shows up,
Yeah.
right? Because you could have cried. You could have cried.
Yes.
At 4, and that's it.
That's probably what
She
my
couldn't
daughter would
even- She would not have forced you. But the thing is, there was something to be done, and you did it. In Germany, well, I'm a Schumpeterian, right?
Right.
They call them Mandatar, a man of action.
Right.
Right. And he says these are people who just take action, right? They're given a chore or they have to do something, they just do it. And he lists a number of people who just show up, one of which was Napoleon. Well, you're taller than Napoleon, so, but... and
You're taller than
is
most
Hitler. But it's people who, I think, there's something that's inbuilt in them, and they just show up. They do it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's bring that home. So the Congress is talking a lot about Vision 2030, middle income economy, middle income industry. Do we have the leadership?
I think.
And you're a past president, so nobody thinks you want the job.
Oh no! I'll talk openly. I think I'm amongst friends. I think we do. But there's sometimes it's not about changing the person. It's about transforming the person, the same person, just getting them to see things a little differently. And we were talking about cattle, and he was talking about showing up, just being there, Napoleon. It's the leaders is a response. Leadership is a response to opportunity, for the most part. How a person responds to an opportunity. I give you an opportunity, somebody else, may not take the role you're taking in convening us. They may shy away. It's just how you have responded. And so naturally now you are the center. Now we're all talking to you. I should be talking to him, or maybe talking this way. So you
He's
see,
wearing a bow tie. Don't take him seriously.
so it's response to opportunity. And 2030 is it's vision casting by a head of state. And now we are getting into a phase where people are starting to respond. Here we are talking about it. I remember there was a time that they're talking about Vision 20. It's got nothing to do with me. But here we are now. It's kind of, we're talking about it, and and we are responding, and we are thinking of what's my 2030 going to look like? Because it has to be personal.
Right. So if you were to break it down, if I get it correctly, you're saying if there's a problem or there's an issue, it's who gets up,
Yes.
and solves the issue,
Right.
the problem. Like it's that basic.
Yes.
It's that small. You
100%.
start solving the small things,
100%.
and before you know it, you're boiling the ocean.
100%.
But is that the correct vision though? Because sometimes I'm of the view that you can have amazing leadership, but if you don't have the right strategy, if you don't have the right vision, then you're just going to execute in the wrong direction, and you're not going to get the outcome that you're looking for. And so when you think about it in a Zimbabwean context, and this is my question to you about Vision 2030, is it big enough? Is it bold enough? It's the 21st century. You've got companies that didn't exist in 2000, that are worth trillions, right? So wealth creation, the model has changed. If you go back 100 years to the robber barons, J.P. Morgan and
Rockefellers,
that lot, it took them 30, 40 years to build up fortunes of the equivalent of $1 billion today, right? But in the 21st century, we've seen people like Mark Zuckerberg, inside a decade, build a fortune worth more than $1 billion, right?
Elon Musk.
So when you look
Our
at
very own Strive.
Strive.
So when you look, we're call us an $18 billion economy, and you look at the vision, what's the GDP target for Vision 2030? Is it big enough? Is that are we
adequate?
Are we thinking? Because I'm pretty sure we're not talking about 250 billion or 150 billion target GDP. We're talking much more modest numbers like 50 billion. Is that the right level?
Well, I think you're right, but I'm a believer in peak theory, which says you see a peak, and once you get on that peak, you see the next one. If you're going through a mountain range, you climb up. There are some peaks that you don't see because of where you are. If you're in a valley, you can't see. So because the rest is covered in the clouds. But when you get up there, now you're seeing the next one, and probably it becomes a question of how short or how quick are you at identifying the next peak, and how willing are you to set aside that what you thought was very high and say, okay, look, guys,
But no, we won't let you get away with that.
right.
Are we going to spend half a generation shooting for incremental growth? Or should we not begin by dreaming of something that's transformational? Because if we're looking at something incremental, we're going to do things a little bit better. We're going to make industry a little bit better.
We're going to tweak.
We're going to tweak. But if
Yet we
we
should
actually
overhaul.
say, no, we're in the wrong movie, guys.
Yeah.
We're playing the wrong game here.
Okay, so can I take you away from Zimbabwe and take you to East Africa?
You like East
love
Africa?
Yeah.
Because I learned quite a bit.
One day we're going to find out.
The truth will come out about what's happening between
No,
Tinashe.
I will. And this is just one anecdote that will give you a clue. This is a helpful clue. But when you're going up Mount Kilimanjaro, for 3 days you actually don't see where you're going. So you know you're going up,
yeah.
the tallest mountain in Africa. You know this in your head. That's the vision, right?
Yeah.
But actually, for 3 days,
Don't see the peak.
You don't even see the peak, and you're just going round. But when you start at the beginning, they will tell you one thing, and this is the thing they will tell you consistently. They'll say pole, pole,
Pole, pole.
pole, pole.
What does that mean?
Slowly.
Slowly.
Take it easy.
Just take it easy. You know exactly where you're going, but what's very important is the
Pacing
steps.
yourself.
Pacing
But-
yourself, and the next.
but that's-
pace.
but- but-
and then the other thing is to acclimatize, and which I think
Yes.
goes to your point,
Yes.
right? That actually, when you're going up, because you're not used to it.
But
you go up and you come down.
Tinashe,
Right. Okay.
I think you're being very nice to Busisa for whatever reason. You're being very generous. to her. Look, when you
That I disagree with.
when you
We always disagree.
When you
It's
climbed Kilimanjaro, you left home to conquer the tallest peak in Africa.
Right.
That's bold.
And you're talking about your plan to do.
can I
You
give you
didn't leave
another-
home
No, but-
to
but-
climb the
but-
copy.
no,
and
but
then,
George,
and then
George.
maybe when I get to the
No,
copy, I'm
George.
going to think
No,
about
no,
it.
no,
So
George,
can I
hold on,
correct you?
Tinashe, hold on.
I love that analogy.
George, most developing countries, they have a goal. The goal is not to be a middle income economy, it's to eradicate poverty.
And that's the
all.
problem. And that's the problem.
all. And so give your country some credit. Because we are not talking about eradicating poverty. We are saying middle income. That's already for a lot, and this is everybody, hey? This is already, it's quite a lot. You said it's 50, 60, I put it at 75, thereabouts.
Billion
75, yeah,
GDP.
75 billion GDP. From where we are, that's almost a 5x. Huh?
But you know, we can create
And
one
a
company.
5x.
We can create one company that will have a turnover of 75 billion.
Look, unicorns, how many unicorns will you need? A company is worth $1 billion in 10 years. Because remember, this is a 10 years. This is not Vision 2040, it's 2030, which is 9 years away. Yeah? And what we are saying as a country, with all the legacy issues that we have, with a First Republic that maybe overstayed the podium. Now we are in a second. We should have been here maybe 20 years ago, right? So we already had these delays, and now I agree with you. Look, you can have a big, hairy, audacious goal. What those good to great guys say: big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG, you know. And you make it crazy, like let's say we want to be $100 billion economy. Maybe that's more inspiring in terms of unlocking creativity, you know. But I really think that it's a decent peak to target
For 9 years?
For 9 years to say
Young-
let's hit it, let's surpass the target, and also middle income. What is middle income, by the way? Do you know that middle income goes up to $12,000 per annum
Yeah.
But,
per capita?
per capita.
GDP per capita.
Yeah. If you multiply that by 15, you're looking at a very big number. Because it's not
To me, the biggest worry is you may not get there. You know, we never measure vision, right? We measure results, right? So the whole idea, the notion of pole pole,
Right.
is after 3 days,
Yes.
we don't measure how far you are from the peak. We measure you've gone through 3,000 in terms of altitude.
And how's
you
your
walked,
breathing?
And how's your breathing? How's this? And we just
But
pole,
but
pole.
but
are you gonna
Tinashe,
quit
but
it before you get
for
base
no,
counters?
but
For
the
counters, people get the
but the
principle
guy
of
who
compounding.
Tinashe, the guy who left home with the intention of conquering the copy, and the guy who left home with the intention of conquering Kilimanjaro, the idea of pole pole is different.
No, but
And their plan is different.
I think to defend Busisa, I think he's.
Hey, you got a lot of fans, Busisa.
No, it's not. It's not fans. It's making sense.
No, he is making sense. I think if you look at it, if you take it literally, converting everybody to middle income, I think that's an audacious goal.
That's an
So
audacious
maybe the
goal.
reason why it doesn't sound audacious.
It's because of how it's maybe being unpacked,
Firstly,
interpreted.
yeah, I agree. The way it's being articulated,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound.
Actually, it's impossible. If you compound, because you need to be growing at like 10%.
It's not
per
impossible.
annum.
I beg to differ.
The fundamentals are not there for you to get there. And
the
to me,
moment, yeah.
even if you miss it, the whole idea of pole pole is, if you, and I always give Kenya as an example, that for the last 30 years, they've actually been growing at 3% per annum. For America to be successful, people forget this. They were growing at 1% when you average it out over 100 years.
CAGR.
Is they're growing at 1% per annum. They're actually growing at 1% per annum. But for 100 years.
But
beg
as,
to differ.
but as
and the
Einstein
idea-
says, the miracle of compound interest.
No, compound interest is a phenomenal thing.
It's a phenomenal thing. So, if we are doing this on 9 years, if you're doing 6%, 7% for 9 years, which is what we are hungry to see, I agree with it. It's more the steps. Are we in the right direction? Are we providing the stability to multiply businesses 5x, 10x? Because I'm listening to the conversations of the CEOs to say, what are we thinking? Are we talking about 5x, 10x? Is everybody saying, look, I need to expand my business, I need to get, because if we're starting to hear those conversations, then we've got a virtuous cycle on the way.
And are you hearing them?
You know, it's mixed. It's mixed, and I think the latest, and it's situational, right? Because business is, you know, you're dealing with a group of people that have been through several waves of trauma, and economic trauma, and so the way they are cautious already, they are not as gung ho as you would normally if you were, you know, you'd never had a serious injury. So a little bit cautiously optimistic in some sectors, some outright despondent, and you know, it's a timing issue. If we were talking and we'd had a conversation on how we're going to stabilize exchange rate, currency, I know you've had some conversations about that. If that was clear, you probably would get it's that easy to flick on and off. You know, clarity on currency. How are we going to have convergence? This 100, 200 is really
Are you allowed to say that?
What?
Don't you sit on the MPC?
No, I don't sit on the MPC. I do not sit on the
I
MPC.
thought you did. Oh, okay. So you can
But
say 200.
okay, I want to go back to Tinashe's point about
Oh, so you can say 200.
about incremental growth. I'm surprised and actually disappointed that you talk about incremental growth, because you're a fan of Peter Thiel, and you know, he's the author of this fantastic book 0 to 1. And I thought that that was your mindset. You're a 0 to 1 guy, not an N plus 1 guy.
I'm actually a 0 to 1, but when you look at economic growth, so these are the hard realities, away from the fairy tales of, you know, steroid use to grow big. Away from that, when you look at how the British industrialized, there's actually over 200-year period.
Yeah, but there's a reason why they use the word revolution. It wasn't an industrial
So
evolution. It was an industrial
revolution. Do you know why it's called a revolution? Because in the human history of 6,000 years, you had 200 years that made the change. So you have those 200 years over a period of 6,000 years where nothing was happening over a 6,000-year period.
Yeah.
And then you have 200 years out of 6,000. That's why it's a revolution.
And also remember that it's a dramatization looking back. It's over, because there's nothing. It wasn't a single date. There is no date where you say the revolution took place, like the Bolshevik revolution, which is
Russian,
dated. So we're mixing political terms and development terms. In the reality of the steam engine, you know, these are marked by certain.
These guys are ready to wait 200 years.
Certain inventions coming over. No.
fundamental.
Look, there's a silver lining. The rate at which knowledge is doubling, the first doubling of knowledge, and when knowledge doubles, there's always a significant invention, like the wheel. The wheel was a significant product that came out of humanity's existence. The steam engine, the internet, and the rate at which knowledge is doubling is getting shorter and shorter. This is the good news. So this is humanity. This is looking at humanity. So I don't think that countries like Zim have to go through long to the 1776 in the States before we see the American miracle. 150 years before you started seeing a superpower in the making. I don't think. Why? Because we've got certain tools now that are available to whether you're a big country or a small country. The internet is available to every country, whether you're big or small. There was a time when it was available only to superpowers, only to certain nations. So this is a big change that's coming, and I do agree with you that we probably don't have to wait as long to get results. And I, like you, I also have that anxiety of seeing things sooner. This is a target. If we surpass the target, wouldn't it be nice if we get to 12,000 per capita income in 2027? I think it would be great. I think it would be fantastic, but at least we know that we've achieved it and we can set the next peak.
Okay, so this brings into question the existing policy framework. You touched a bit on it when you mentioned the currency, right?
Right.
So let's assume that the vision is correct, that the target is ambitious and bold,
Right.
Can we realistically talk about getting there in the current macroeconomic policy framework, or are we just delusional?
Look, I think there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. There's a lot that has to change. I'm very candid and open that things can't stay the same. We need an overhaul of institutions. We need an overhaul of personal paradigm. I was just talking just now in the conference about councils. I'm reading a book called If Mayors Ruled the World. It's a very interesting book about how you can transform dysfunctional nations by looking at a micro levels of governance.
Absolutely.
Of which the community in Greendale, in Mandara, in Koba, in Morningside, in Bulawayo, in Rodin, in Mashingo, they organize themselves and have the right leaders. It's a culture. That's how you change a culture. And right now, I was shocked at, we had a certain problem at one company, and I was shocked at the person we had to engage to solve a complex.
You know what? Just hold a minute.
Okay.
You can have more of my tea.
Sure, please, by all means. I was shocked at the guy who showed up to help us solve a very complex problem that I was battling and enter Mr. Council. So we've got a fundamental structural governance problem at a micro level. And for me, it's going to, when we start to see signs, and I saw it in a community where I have a dwelling, and the transformer, Zesa transformer went down. We were out of electricity for 2 weeks, generators pumping, inverters going down, and people getting gas, and then somebody said, you know what, this is just, this dysfunction I can't handle. Started a WhatsApp group with 10 people, say, if you've got the phone numbers of the people in this community, not the councillor.
Councillor was nowhere to be seen.
After 5 days, somebody said, hey guys, do we have a councillor in this area? And I said, please, we don't want to talk about, we don't even care. We want to organize ourselves. The leader of that community is that lady that opened the WhatsApp group. The lady that called the meeting on the street. On the street. She said, we are meeting this afternoon on the street. That's how it began. And in 1 week, we had a transformer, electricity back. That lady has my vote. And I should be talking to that lady and saying, look, you need to run for councillor. And this is a concept called aristocratic leadership. Getting the people that see themselves as responsible. Who tells a person that, George, you should be our leader? Who is the voice?
Just show up.
A guy pitches up and say, you know what, guys, we need to get a transformer, NAS. This can't go on. That's our leader. The problem we've got now is because of maybe a political party system that we are saying, you know, the parties are trying to populate leadership, you know, top down. It's a top-down approach.
Positions.
And that,
Trying to
yeah,
populate a position.
yes,
Not leadership.
not leadership.
But just
It's a position. We need a candidate. We need a candidate.
Yeah.
And I like my political party X, and so I vote. And so we've got a dysfunctional, and I think it's going to take pain. You know, they say in China, you know, success is the mother of failure, and failure is the mother of success.
We've been failing for a minute in this part of the world.
Because we're getting
so
the
maybe we're due.
fundamentals wrong.
Maybe we're due for some success.
Well, you know, I used to be very optimistic, but it's been 40 years, guys.
So I'm actually more optimistic, and I've said this numerous times, that the optimism to me is less about people in Zimbabwe, but the diasporans. Because what the diasporans are doing is they're going through the cleansing process, where they're learning things that actually work, And your natural inclination is to say, well, I've learned this thing.
No. Sorry. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think you can't look at it like that. There are many people who've learned things that work and don't replicate them. But where
They're not showing up.
But where I think the hope is, and I don't know, I think you won't like this, but we need to consciously build elites. People, if you're talking about this concept of aristocratic leadership, there have to be people who believe they're leaders and that believe they're responsible for our country.
The aristocratic bit is about leadership, it's about values. So the thing about aristocracy, anyway, right, it's certain people who hold certain values.
It's a class, yeah.
It's a class that is defined by its values.
We're in agreement.
So up until you have, and that's what I'm saying about the diasporans, that it's very difficult to learn certain values in this environment.
No, I think you can have them in this environment.
It's a cycle.
I think a lot of people have the right values in this environment, and I think the
Are
problem,
they acting out their values?
So I think
they are in a limited way.
policy framework in which it doesn't matter what values you have. How can you succeed as an exporter if every dollar of export you're being ripped off by an exchange rate that doesn't transfer fair value?
No,
Right.
I think that's a cop out. I mean, as we sit here, the four of us have shown up in different capacities, right? So you've led CZI. You're now doing your bit on ZITF. You've also done Zida. You've also done that other thing that we don't like to talk about.
Which one is that?
We don't want to get trolled. And we've ended up doing this show.
Right.
And we've done this show really because we believe we need to influence views.
Right.
And thoughts need to go out there
100%,
and
100%.
dialogues need to be had.
First of all, Georgia, I want to say something. The evolution of a psychographic takes time. It's more than values, it's a psychographic. It's a way of organizing thought. It's a way, it involves things like tolerance. What do we tolerate and what don't we? So it's a psychographic. Why do you accept kuti kwa Mereki? It was like that when we were 10. Today in the capital, kwa Mereki still looks like that. It has not
No,
changed.
there's
I
a public
could
toilet
swear
now.
the brick that was there,
There's a public toilet
that
now.
I sat on. Exactly, one.
Yes.
You know? Ko. Kwazindoga. Explain to me how. Makokova is the same. I could pick any place. Sakuva, the stadium, Baba Field Stadium.
Maybe we're
It's
addicted
still-
to poverty.
60%. It's a psychographic that says, you know what? And we've all been exposed. Here we are. We've gone. We've seen Moses Mabhida. We've seen Wembley. We've seen Ellis Park. How do we accept? Good diaspora. You actually fly in, see the place. You actually say, I miss home, and you see it the same.
And you take a nostalgic
And
picture and you put it on
you know,
Facebook.
and you know, what do we tolerate? So psychographic is about what do we tolerate? What irritates, not me, but a community. Where community say, like that lady, I was giving an example. You know, guys, we can't be struggling for electricity living in a high-end suburb. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to wait for ZESA to solve. I'm the one who's suffering. I'm the one who's having to boil water and
Can I
gas.
tell you what? My brother-in-law brought this one to my attention. A pet peeve of mine.
Yes.
The number of people that live in nice suburban houses in town and have nice jobs, but have a house kumusha that is a Blair toilet.
Exactly.
I
not
just
put running water?
my mind cannot get,
Yes.
cannot comprehend this.
I refuse. I said, we've got a Jojo tank. Kumusha, we've got a Jojo tank here. Why do you still want to do a long draw? Why do you still want to? You've got a Jojo tank. You can connect the tank and have running water and flush. You see, it's what we tolerate. Because Kumusha, no, let's do a long draw.
This person is a manager in a listed company.
Funny today. A long time.
Comes with the accent.
Guys, sipo kana ichi kuvuma kayo accent.
So that's what you got to change. So even if the guy is in the diaspora, the guy in the diaspora who's coming and taking a picture of a rundown Barberfield Stadium.
Right.
Is no different from the manager in your business, or perhaps even you, who's going Kumusha and using a long drop.
Exactly. I'm having,
You know how much a toilet seat costs? The whole thing, the whole set, costs about $50.
yeah.
So it's society's
It's
values that you
society.
have to change,
Yes,
right?
you gotta change it from the ground up.
From the ground up.
From the ground up, and when we start not tolerating and saying, look, you know
So
what, guys,
pole.
pole,
guys.
but you
These
know
are the
what?
small things.
No,
you
pole,
change.
pole,
No,
pole,
but
What you're saying is
No,
you have
but
to change.
let's put
long
a
drop.
let's put a seat.
put a
Let's put a seat in the long drop.
At least just
progress.
incremental. No, but you know what? It's an irritation. It's societal irritation. Why do some bridges get built and some not? I'll tell you, it's simple. If lots of kids, it's been proven, if lots of kids are drowning in a particular river because they're trying to cross to get somewhere, communities immediately address that problem. So development and changing the psychographic of a nation is not a linear. It's chunky, and sometimes the chunks are long. You can have a jump, a leap. Singapore is like that. In industry, it takes just one, not even a black swan event, but certain events that irritate us. Like now, nobody was talking about the currency issue until 200, 100. Try that for size.
Yeah.
Now, even the most
Becomes real.
Yes. Now, a lot of things are being choked. A lot of things. The dysfunction is intolerable. What you tolerate. So, and then hopefully, the problem is if you have lots of events like that are swept under the carpet, the development and the change takes longer and longer. And to your point, this is where I support your point. Is if you tolerate dysfunction, correction, you end up thinking that life is like that. Instead of overhaul and say, okay guys, this is
We've had enough of this.
Don't bring me a long drop toilet. You're not going to, if you don't have the money, we're not building a toilet.
So actually, I like the point that you're making because it speaks to something that happened quite recently involving CZI, which is when the rate hit 170, 175, and there were a bunch of arrests and some policy pronouncements.
Yes.
The CZI actually put their hand up and said, this currency regime doesn't work.
Right.
But guess what? In this market, in this country, there's the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe, there's ZNCC, there are all these other business bodies who were quiet, right? The CZI put their hand up and said, no, this is unacceptable. So what is holding back the rest of the business community? Why is everybody
Speaking with one voice.
Yeah,
Again,
because it's so clear that the
again,
currency framework isn't working.
it's a psychographic that's going to have to change in sectoral cohesion, where if one sector is doing well, it's not going to be acceptable. We all must do well. Once we get to that psychographic, the country will start to move forward economically because the bank posting huge profits whilst the real sector is
suffering,
is registering NPLs and
And we have
folding.
importers cooking oil,
Exactly.
Getting
The lion's share of FX,
taking away from the exporters.
taking away from the exporters,
Are you saying this?
creating this dichotomy. Yeah, well,
No, this has got the correct values.
Look.
I would want to.
Yeah, well, we went to youth camps together.
but no. But let me tell you this. Mwana we munhu ano exporter platinum munyika ino yeZimbabwe anokangane chi zai rake makuseni.
No, so we must give you guys half price for it.
The issue is not me. The issue is the rate. It's not me. That's why I said to colleagues, we're having the wrong argument. Because Zaira unorikanga ne royal. Mwana wako iwewe Mr. Exporter. Mukaka.
But why don't we just let's just price it correctly.
When you are in the evening, wakabata nagiri Delta car, they require forex. Wakabata ichi. This is the forex. Ndio forex. Iwewe
Delta
Mr.
charges
Exporter urikufara ne
Let's
border
just
rate.
have the correct price. Our
Exactly.
argument is, let's just
Exactly.
have the correct price.
So that's the issue. So let's not have a fight. Now the fight is moving from the rate to forex. You forget that in 2016, Resema exporters are the same people who are bringing in the dollar. US dollars. They had to pay us in US dollars, and we were not asking anyone for
And they're not refusing to pay now. Anyway, sorry, we're going down a rabbit hole.
No, it's not a rabbit
Really in a
hole.
rabbit
No, it's not a rabbit hole. It's a very important. Again, it's a psychographic. Yekuti. The design of any economy, you will have people that export, and you will have people that produce goods to feed, to build shelter, houses, clothing. That won't be exporters. It's normal for a society to be like that. Right.
Okay, but
so
you,
number one.
Okay,
So
okay.
then
Now,
number two.
now that you've pulled us in this rabbit hole, right? And I think this is an established principle on Friday drinks, right? That people must pay for what they eat, and if there are people that cannot afford to pay, they must be subsidized by the state from its own resources, not from somebody else's pocket. In my family, we have a saying, I don't know if it's a common saying in other people's families. "Apana mwana anochengeta muwe mwana." If there's a child who's struggling, go to your dad. I'm not your dad. If I do so, it's out of the
Out
kindness
of
of
courtesy of your house. You can't
Yes.
demand it.
yes.
It's not your responsibility.
Yes, so if an export has done well, let them enjoy the fruits of their exports.
No, but you see, you are dividing a society that is more intricate than that. And this is where I think the exporter argument that's been played out now is a very selfish one, and it's anti-society. It's actually
Explain that, because I think this is where we disagree.
yeah, we
Explain
disagree.
that.
We disagree a little bit because it's
Yeah.
anti-society. Because now the thing is, it's property rights. Huh? That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
It's my property. I am the one that Ndirindega. I exported, not in a community. I exported forex in the Yangu. It's my I have the right to alienate it, to hypothecate it, and to sell it and to trade it. It's mine.
To do whatever I want with it.
But that to do whatever I want with it.
Yeah.
But that is a very myopic view of where you are and your context.
Why?
No, because Tinashe, as I've said to you, you are in an ecosystem. You have a government that needs to provide electricity for your factory.
You're paying taxes
You're
in
paying taxes.
dollars?
You're paying taxes.
You're paying your taxes in dollars?
Now, there's another point where I disagree with the current framework. I don't think you should pay your taxes in dollars. I think you should pay your taxes in the local currency. Government is the issuer of the local currency. The first
But they're demanding for it.
backer. No, the first
No, you're
backer.
saying they shouldn't
No.
demand for
Well,
it.
and this is public. This is public. The first backer of the currency is government itself. You can't invite me to your house and then say I'm not eating. I'm eating at your house. You are saying no.
No.
So let's. I bring these issues down to a simple, natural Ubuntu context. Chiwano, mararamiro edu, just how we live. If you invite me to your house, what do? You do a buffet. Do you know what you got taste?
Okay, can I make the argument for exporters?
Yes,
Right.
please go ahead.
You got to do it quickly.
Okay, so I will.
He's incapable of making any argument quickly.
In the history of an exporter, of especially gold, platinum, whatever it is, if you take a 50-year view, what tends to happen is this spout of great commodity prices probably last about 5-6 years if you're lucky.
Yeah, and a finite resource.
It's a finite resource as well, and it changes all the time. Technological changes. So what tends to happen is when you have these good years, what you need to do is you need to increase your capacity. The reason why you want to increase your capacity is so that your cost of production actually gets lower. So if you look at gold mines, if you look around,
You're not doing this very quickly.
I told you.
No, but
Well, it's
I've
an
got you.
important
I've got
point.
you.
But-
It's the booms and busts of the
It's an
global
important
pricing.
point.
I think you're actually both right, and I don't think you're in disagreement. So.
No, I'm just saying, I'm actually arguing that the reason why I need my full currency
By
in
yourself.
the boom, it's because so that I actually increase employment.
How much of it do
I'm
you want to
actually,
take?
I'm actually, I'm
So-
actually
so-
coming back to the society where I'm increasing employment, I'm increasing technological transfer, I'm increasing taking technology from overseas, bringing it here, and I'm reducing my cost of production. If you look at gold, the gold mines right now, because they haven't increased capacity,
We've missed out.
we've missed out because in Colombia, in Latin America now, they're now are able to produce gold at far less, right? And we've missed out.
No, but
You look at
I
coal,
don't think
you
you
look
guys
at
are in disagreement. So
How much?
here's
The
what he
only
said.
the only difference between us is the structure of the framework.
It's a social contract, gentlemen.
It's a social contract one, but it's also.
do you actually believe in the social contract?
The issue.
It's so before you invest a penny in your mining project, right? You have a conversation with the state.
Yes.
Right? Where the state says, okay, you want to exploit this resource.
Yes.
These are our terms and conditions.
Yes.
We want royalties of X%.
Yes.
We want taxation.
Taxes.
And this is
Tick,
our
tick, tick,
exchange
tick,
rate.
yes.
tick 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 tick.
No,
And
but they
you-
keep changing the exchange regime.
No, so this is the point that I'm trying to make.
The argument.
So the investor is saying, okay, fine, these are the terms and conditions. They do their model.
Yeah.
Does
They say
the
it's fine.
investment make sense, right? If it makes sense, they bring in the money.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the problem is when the guy on the other side of this contract wakes up one morning and says, actually,
No, no.
Do you know why he's coming in
Maya.
when he says actually?
Yeah.
It's because you've done everything.
No, he's
and
only
you've done
saying
it.
he's saying the government is the one that's coming up.
And,
It's
and
saying-
I'm saying, do you know when they say actually? They never say actually in
the bust
in the
times.
bust times. They say actually
In the boom
in the
times.
boom times. When you
but it
have-
doesn't matter when they say it. They shouldn't say it at all.
No. But then if they were honest enough, they would know that actually my boom times is the time when I actually invest more. In my boom times, if you look at Zimplats, they should be pouring. I don't understand.
they haven't
why
invested a
they're going
penny.
into cattle. They're going into
They haven't
cattle.
invested. Come on.
Come on.
Not maybe not
Okay,
enough.
relative
No,
to
but-
what they've made, they
but
haven't
listen,
invested a penny.
But George,
in the last few years.
They haven't.
These issues.
And if you were them,
These
would you?
issues. Listen.
So I look stupid.
Guys, these issues, Tinashe, these issues are issues of relativity and magnitude. The concept, no, seriously, the concept of
You've been going to
Aiwa.
that committee of yours too often.
Aiwa Bodo. Bodo. Terera unze, George. Terera unze. It's an issue of, do you know, when we met with the miners and said, guys, we don't want a situation, nobody is proud. I don't want to be coming, hey, Urutora Forex here. I don't like that. It doesn't feel good. So, what percentage would you like to retain? And what percentage do you want to give up? One. Do you want this to be in the form of a tax in dollars? Or do you want it to be just surrender? And then you pay in local currency. You convert your USD. Because you need to keep a flow. For the framework of currency to work, you must have in and outs. You must trade.
Okay, you also need to make your point quickly.
Yeah, you must trade, George. So I'm saying,
So what did they say?
no. So my miners actually said, no, at 90-10. It's on record. 90-10,
So they
we are
would-
quite
they
happy.
want to
retain 90% and 10 we can give up as surrender.
All right.
And on taxes, we're quite happy to pay the equivalent. For government to be interested in a viable rate, taxes must be paid in local currency, because then they will want true value. And they will also want
I
to
think that's a
listen,
good
and they will
That's a very
also
good point.
and they will also want to guard. They will also guard the viability of the currency, because they will be getting local dollars, just like me, an exporter in the country that the state is running on my behalf. Huh? They're running the country on my behalf. We are aligned, because now when they collect their taxes, they will have some expenses which are in dollars, and they will want fungibility, at least internally. We might not be recognized the world over and be able to change our local currency in
I
Taiwan.
think that's a very good
So
point.
the
Why
framework.
Taiwan? We
I'm
like
just
China.
giving an example.
And that's perhaps a good point, a good place for us.
Sahrawi Democratic Republic, okay.
It's a good place for us to wrap up this discussion.
It's
I
so
would,
soon.
I would normally say don't take
I
us
didn't
too
get to talk
seriously.
about manufacturing. You said, what am I passionate about? Because that didn't come. I thought we were building up to that.
We'll do another show.
Clearly, you're not passionate about manufacturing.
No,
Very
You were
passionate.
given an hour.
Was it an
You
hour?
forgot-
Okay.
Yes, can I-
forgot
Guys, you're going to have to
manufacturing.
cut this, because I need to make this point. Guys, we've got AFCFTA. Zimbabwe is in pole position because we've got, in spite of all our problems,
And we've got lots of those.
we still have, and we got lots of them. We got lots of them there. We still have infrastructure that is ahead, and a geographical location that even South Africa doesn't have. But we need to be smart. We mustn't do like South Africa and want to locate all the factories here to produce whiskey, to produce tea. We must do what's called shared manufacturing. We must share the jobs with the Malawians that in the colonial period used to come and work here.
Federation. Yeah.
During the Federation, they would come and work here. Same thing that's happening in South Africa. It's just a repeat. History repeats itself. And we haven't corrected those structural. How do you correct the structural? You have shared manufacturing. You do intermediate products here. If you're making tea here, you don't pack it here. You produce the tea, you send it raw, and you process it in the Congo. And you tell the Congolese government, we want to come and set up a factory there. The raw materials is coming from here. What does that become here? It's an export. But you've linked it in, it's tied. 50-year contract. Just like we did with sugar. That's how Tongaat came up. There were 50-year contracts with the EU. On meat, we created...
So instead of going straight to the African free trade, there's this thing called SACU.
Yes. So we start with SADC. I agree.
Yeah, start with
No,
SADC.
not SACU, but SADC.
Well,
SACU.
SACU, I'll tell you what happens.
What is SACU, by the way?
No, SACU is Lesotho,
6-year-olds back.
Botswana, and Namibia.
Yeah.
Southern African customs
You
unions.
know, well, they actually capture what you're saying beautifully because they collect all the taxes, all the import taxes, they put them in one pot, and they only share once a year. And they say, well, this is how much we collected, and this is what we're sharing. But trade amongst themselves
It's tax-free.
is tax-free.
But we already have tax-free trade in the whole of SADC.
And
we're getting after. We're getting after.
So
No.
COMESA-
No, it's because we misbehave. There's COMESA and there's SADC, but the SADC protocols, there's tax-free trade in SADC.
Yeah.
And
we
then
probably need to start there.
once in a while we unilaterally impose taxes.
Yeah. Which is what I'm saying, that and you see, if you're doing shared manufacturing, it's not in your interest. And remember that we've got challenges with raising capital here because of some isolation issues that we have.
No, because we have
Right. Now when we have now we can be creative, guys, and say, to build the finishing factory, you don't have to raise all the capital here. Here you're just expanding production, but you got to
then you tap into
exactly. You go to
a cheaper
Tanzania and you
price.
set up.
You actually raise all the
Capital,
you actually raise all the money in Tanzania. You raise
You're
all the
the
money
bank.
in Botswana or whatever.
Yes.
And you
Namibia, yes.
prepay
Yes.
your
You
supplier
prepare exactly.
in Zimbabwe for 6
Exactly.
months
Oh,
production.
guys, that's the apex of what I wanted to share with you. We need to do it differently from South Africa, and that's how we are going to be a better brother, using his advantage and sharing what advantage and the acumen, the intellect that we have, the resources that we have, by creating these linkages that are based on shared
So
manufacturing.
what's stopping us?
My second point, we need to do manufacturing and enterprise differently from the colonial Rhodesian period, because we've perpetuated that.
I agree.
We're not changing. The reason you guys are saying we're tired, it's been 40 years. No, it hasn't been 40 years. It's actually
It's
more
been
than
55.
that, since 1965.
Yes.
It's since
Well,
because
you said quite well
because
when
we
You don't watch our show, do you?
inward looking.
no, well, I need to
We've
find
been
out.
talking about this.
Oh, you've been talking about it.
Yeah.
So the construct and the design. This is what I say, psychographic. Psychographic means that we don't have to talk about it, but we're all thinking it. Then you know, you know you've got a psychographic. So my final point is this one. We need to think of our brothers. Remember, I said I was herding cattle. We need to think that there's a young boy who wants to be sitting in this chair in 10 years' time. But right now, arikufudza mombe. We need to have inclusive, truly inclusive participation in the economy, intentional, where rural communities, peri-urban communities in Epworth, they are involved in the development of what we are creating. And I'm not talking about social grants. There's other guys who are going to do that for the vulnerable. That's fine. I am talking about, once I've linked up my tea estate, I see Honde Valley, where tea is grown. Beautiful tea there.
Yeah.
But there's people living in abject poverty there. There's a billionaire who's got tea estates there. But in sections, pockets, people living in abject poverty. It's unacceptable. That is unacceptable for us, Van Vatema, to be presiding over a design that is like that. Teak is harvested in Lupane. Teak that goes to Mauritius. Go to Lupane.
Goes to China, goes to Europe.
We have to change and cleverly figure out on an
How to
end
integrate
how to integrate, not on a,
society.
not
Okay.
like the what you call Bakwena Platinum in SA, where it's 10% or the indigenization. CSOTs, community share ownership,
And
tries
goes to a
to
bunch
get-
of shares.
and then
Down
some
a
guy,
philosophical angle.
right?
You should just be libertarian.
No,
Let the market sort this out.
No, the market will not sort it out because the market
Okay.
is greedy.
Okay, yeah, so point number 2.
You must come to our show.
No, the current, hey, Tinashe, the current market players, maybe I'm generalizing.
Yeah, there's cronyism.
There's current market players are not really playing for market. And also, if you opened up, the new entrants will have to go through the journey. So you're actually now delaying the whole thing. The guys who are there, we just need to change our paradigm, guys, and get communities involved, get guys growing cotton, integrate them into the cotton value chain. It's a drought-resistant crop. To get sunflowers. I come from oilseeds, so I talk about that, but I'm sure a guy in furniture, a guy in steel, a guy in gold.
But that's what Rufaro is saying is, with the right policy, everyone is actually integrated.
But
No,
okay,
but it's not just policy, it's
gentlemen, I
attitude.
really must
all that.
gentlemen, I really must cut this off. The production team is struggling with the sound
Oh,
because it's
okay.
raining outside.
All right, sorry guys. Sorry guys, we're getting carried away. It's your show.
But
But you must come,
Busisa,
to the bar.
next time you're in Harare,
Yeah.
please come to the bar.
Oh, where's the bar?
We'll tell you. Well, we're not saying it on camera.
Otherwise, Tinashe's fans will stick it.
Why do you have that guy there? What's that guy? You're overplaying him. Why?
Well, it's been lovely having you along. It's been a great show, great conversation. I hope we've inspired some thoughts. We've inspired some conversations. And if you have some thoughts, please participate in the discussion on our social media platforms. Let's have your comments. And remember, there's a chance to win a whiskey book at the end of this season. Otherwise, enjoy yourself, be safe, be good. If you can't be good at it.